So when Clarence Campbell ended his long tenure as what he called the president of the NHL, we were wondering who was going to take his place. There was a lot of speculation that even Al Nicholson might be involved, but this guy that was chosen became either extremely agreed upon by fans of the NHL, or you really couldn't form an opinion because he was not Clarence Campbell, he was not Gary Bettman. He was just basically someone that held held the rope as owners came in and out, players came in and out. And for me, he did a good job, and I don't have anything to criticize because, the era he came in needed his steady hand, and that's what he gave. So today we're going to be talking about the legendary career and management of the NHL, John Ziegler Jr. Now born in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, he was the fourth president of the NHL. He was in office for 15 years from 1977 until 1992. Now he was a lawyer by trade and again an ice hockey executive. Now upon succeeding Clarence Campbell in 77, he became the fourth president of the NHL. He served as league president through 1992, and his 15-year term was marked by the 79 merger that integrated four teams from the rival WHA in the NHL, and by increasing labor unrest among the players. He was the first American to serve as chief executive of the NHL, and he received the Lester Patrick Trophy in '84 and inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame in '87. Now, born in 1934 to John Augustus Ziegler Jr., he lived with his family in Detroit area's northern lakefront suburb of St. Clair Shores, graduated from Lakeshore High School in '51. He would go on to attend the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, obtaining both an undergraduate degree and a graduate law degree, the latter in 1957. Now, before becoming NHL League president in '77, he practiced law initially with the firm Dixon, Wright, McKean, and Cudlip in Detroit, and after settling on his own. He was involved in the ownership of the Detroit Red Wings and served 1 year as chairman of the NHL Board of Governors. He had also been the vice chairman of the England-based London Lions Independent Professional Hockey Team, which was, of course, operated by Detroit Red Wings. Now, prior to the '79 season, a failed manipulation of the waiver system by the Montreal Canadiens led Pierre Bouchard's right to unintentionally move from Montreal to Washington. Montreal had intended to reclaim him, but Ziegler interfered with the deal, initially happy with the move. Bouchard played only one game in the '79 season and considered retirement. However, he returned next season to the NHL with Washington, where he finished his career, playing 4 seasons. Now, Ziegler, along with Al Nicholson, announced on August 6, '79 that protective helmets would become mandatory in the NHL. The new rule had a grandfather clause that granted players who had signed pro contracts prior to June 1st, '79 the option of wearing helmets or not. Those who chose not to wear one signed liability waivers. Now, under his tenure, it had the great NHL-WHA merger and controversy before the amalgamation in '79. Because Ziegler was the NHL's first American chief executive, and the American teams were far less hostile to an idea of a merger with WHA than their Canadian counterparts, he eventually put it all together. The most compelling argument, of course, was the Montreal Canadiens' dominance of the NHL during the years of the WHA's existence. Now, technically, Montreal won in '71, '73, '76, '77, and '79. Now, the Canadiens, again, won the majority of the regular season banners as well. Montreal owed this success in large part to his ability to resist WHA efforts to lure away his players, and many American teams believed they were able to do this because Canadian Hockey Night in Canada television revenues were mostly distributed among the then 3 Canadian teams set across the league. Hence, adding Canadian teams would lessen the financial advantage that teams like the Habs had. Also, both the NHL and WHA owners realized that the Canadian markets were a vital economic base, both to the WHA and any future rivalry league that might take its place. Absorbing the Canadian markets would therefore preclude the possibility of the NHL having to fight off another rival league. Now, in June of 77, Ziegler announced that the NHL had created a committee to investigate the possibility of a merger, while Bill DeWitt, owner of the WHA's Cincinnati Stingers, stated that Ziegler had invited 6 teams to join the league for the 78th season if various conditions could be met. The proposal would have seen the 6 teams become full members of the NHL, but play in their own division with a separate schedule for the first year. Now, led by Toronto's Harold Ballard, the owners voted down Ziegler's proposal. The Calgary Cowboys, who had hoped to be one of the 6 teams to join the NHL, subsequently folded, as did the Phoenix Roadrunners, Minnesota Fighting Saints, and the San Diego Mariners. This reduced the junior league down to 8 teams for the 78th season and left its long-term future in doubt. The merger was eventually completed in time for the 79-80 season, with 4 WHA teams, including the Oilers, Jets, Whalers, and Nordiques, joining the NHL. And since that time, unfortunately, Winnipeg left, Hartford left, and Quebec left as well. So of the original WHA teams, only Edmonton remains. Now, following a 4-3 Boston Bruins victory over the Rangers at MSG on December 23rd, 79, an on-ice fray occurred between the players from both teams, and because of this, Ziegler subsequently suspended O'Reilly for 8 games, and Peter McNabb and Mike Milbury for 6, with each being fined $500. The incident also resulted in the installation of higher glass panels enclosing rinks and hockey arenas. Now, in December '86, LA Kings head coach Pat Quinn signed a contract to be coach and GM of the Canucks, with just months left on his contract. However, Ziegler suspended Quinn for the rest of the season and barred him from taking over Vancouver's hockey operations until June. He also barred him from coaching anywhere in the NHL until 1991. In Ziegler's views, Quinn's actions created serious conflict of interest that could only be resolved by having him removed as coach. Now, also incidents he was involved with: the '88 Stanley Cup playoff off-ice brawl between Don Kowarski, the referee, and Jim Schoenfeld, and of course the Grand Fuhrer cocaine revelations, which saw Ziegler make various hard decisions. Also, during his tenure, the Soviets finally came over to North America, and there was also a major problem with labor relations. Now, Bobby Orr led it. He was involved in a 91 lawsuit of retired NHL players against the NHL over its control of the players' pension fund. Eagleson was involved there too, arranging for the players to give up a seat on the trusteeship of the pension fund in 1969 to gain acceptance of the NHLPA with the NHL owners. Now, Orr and ex-Broom Dave Forbes discussed the lawsuit with sports newspaper The National, and saying that our money is being used to pay pension for current players. Now, the NHL's response was to file a notice of libel and slander against Orr and Forbes. Now, Carl Brewer, one of the early early players to make an effort for a union, defended Orr in a letter to then NHL President Ziegler. It is regrettable that the NHL and the member clubs would resort to such treatment of one of the game's icons, Bobby Orr. And isn't it interesting that baseball players who started their pension plan at 47, as did the NHL, have assets in their plan of some $500 million, while we have only US $31.9 million. The pension lawsuit was finally won by the players in '94 after 2 courts ruled against the NHL. The NHL had appealed the case to the Supreme Court of Canada, but decided not to hear the case. Now, Ziegler was ultimately forced out of office in '92, but his settlement was resolved the 10-day strike. Alan Eagleson was succeeded as NHLPA Executive Director by former player-coach Bob Goodenow. He had served as Deputy Director of the NHLPA since '90, and has spent his time instructing the players on the issues the union faced in its relations with the league. Now, Goodenow negotiated a new collective bargaining agreement, which of course replaced the one that expired prior to the start of the '92 season. Goodenow met with Ziegler as the two had attempted to negotiate an agreement, which included arbitration, bonuses, pensions, and all that. Now, trading card revenue was considered to be one of the greatest stumbling blocks two sides face, And during Ziegler's last season at the helm, the new expansion team, San Jose Sharks, started play again, which marked a return to the NHL to the Bay Area after a 15-year layoff, replacing the Seals. Now, this also sparked the NHL's next wave of expansion of the 1990s. Now, Gary Bettman, which eventually became the NHL's first commissioner, replaced Ziegler's successor Jill Stein. Bettman quickly accomplished one of his stated goals by signing a 5-year, $55 million contract deal with Fox to broadcast NHL games nationally beginning in the 95 campaign. The deal was significant as a network television contract in the U.S. was long thought unattainable during the presidency of Ziegler. Now, Ziegler had made a few mistakes, but for me, consistency was his mantra. And, trying to deal with an American lawyer, they needed somebody that was going to get them inroads in the United States. And even though he was not liked by certain individuals in the media in the U.S., TV and otherwise, again, he stabilized the league and made him a major league again, where Clarence Campbell was like Avery Brundage, was run by a dictatorship. Now, after he moved away from the NHL, he went back to his legal career by practicing in Detroit, then as an alternate governor with the Blackhawks. He later moved to Florida, where he will remain until his death in 2018. Now, saying he was forced out of office is kind of a misnomer in a way, because usually they're not there till death. I think by maybe 1990, 91, Ziegler had felt, did enough, and the crowd reactions were getting kind of strange because they were booing him, and it's not, he was making tough decisions when he needed to do, especially in that the aspect of the Russians, because he had to be very delicate because there was a lot of money involved. Now, especially the Pavel Bure situation, and also the Olympic program, which was starting to expand as well to showcase more international players for NHL markets, and also to celebrate the existing rivalries like Sweden, Finland, U.S. Canada, U.S. Russia, that was benefiting in the long run the NHL. Now, the problem with Ziegler as well, he knew too much of the legal side, which got into major problems. I don't think Clarence Campbell was a linguistic racist. John Ziegler was your typical lawyer. He was going to do something to benefit his clients, which was the NHL itself, rather than the players, but he never took too much that took away from the players. Again, he gave them stability, in my personal opinion. So that's the life in hockey of John Ziegler. If you like this, give us a like, comment, or subscribe. And anything was better than Clarence Campbell. The only other option to me would have been Peter Ueberhoff, the Olympic guy, but Ziegler at the time was the next best thing, in my personal opinion. Have a good day. Bye.